Alright, so hello y'all, this is Miss Peterson and I am here to try and give you an introduction on UCs versus CSUs and a video that I'd like to call, So You Want to Go to College in California. Let us begin. First, check out all of these UCs and CSU options, and no, this doesn't even include all of the private school options that you have in California, which we will get to on a later date. So University of California, the UC system, it is known as being focused on preparing you for research. So you're going to be doing a lot of research, possibly with professors, and a lot of writing. The intent is to get you prepared for graduate school where you're going to be getting either a master's or a PhD in something. And so again, if writing is not your thing, or if you don't plan on becoming some kind of researcher, say in science, then perhaps the UC system is not your ideal. 8 of the 10 campuses are going to be on a quarter system, which may be a little bit different for you depending upon if your high school had a quarter or a semester system. So we're looking at every 10 weeks you are changing classes. These are harder to get into, they are much more competitive to get into, and they tend to have more prestige than, say, the CSUs, and so you have to keep that in mind when you are applying. As for the college experience, if you're thinking of that traditional romantic comedy, teenage going into college experience, this is what you are aiming for. Living near or on campus, going to all of the dances and the parties, or going and joining a club and volunteering on a daily basis. If you are looking to have a close circle of friends who you are meeting up with to cram in the library, then this would be the place for you because most students are going to be living near on campus and pretty much living and breathing the university life. Now, something to notice would be that the fees are a little bit high depending upon your perspective. So tuition is going to be about $14,000, and then everything else is going to add up as well. Room and board is referring to if you're living on campus in a dorm. Off campus, you're probably living in either an apartment or ideally your parents' house. If you're living with your parents, hopefully they are not charging you close to $13,000 in rent. So keep in mind that you're going to have about $16,000 to possibly $36,000 that you're paying for per year, but don't worry if finances is a concern because we're going to get into that in a later video. Shout out to Berkeley real quick. It's so gorgeous. Look at that architecture. Look at that scenery. Berkeley is known as the University of California because it is officially the first University of California established just a couple of years after the Civil War. It is very famous in history, especially for student protests that occurred during the Civil Rights Movement, and with that it is known as having a socialistic environment, if you will, and so if you're planning on pushing for things like social justice and or universal healthcare, possibly that's a good place for you to start, Berkeley. It's also voted the number 4 school in the nation, I should say, for history and political science majors, and you're going, Miss Peterson, why do I care? Well, if you're planning on becoming a politician, a history teacher, gasp, or if you're planning on being a lawyer, you're typically going to major in either history, political science, or just major in both, and so this would be an ideal school for you to look at. Keep in mind that there's under 15% acceptance rate because it is such a prestigious campus. And unlike most of the UCs, this actually has a semester system. So every 15 weeks you are changing up your classes, which is more similar to most schools and how they're formatted with the K through 12. Now on to our CSUs, not to be confused with Colorado State University, which also has a CSU as its abbreviation. So CSUs, we're looking at smaller class sizes, so about 35 students, if less. My senior class, we had 20 in one of my classes, very tiny. In terms of the campus culture, it's going to be known as having a commuter culture. That means that a lot of students are going to be living off campus and they're going to be driving to school to get an education, they're going to be going to the library to study, and they're simply going to be driving back home to do a job or to study further and do homework. So if you're looking for that environment where almost everybody's living on campus and they're all hanging out, this may not be ideal for you, but please keep in mind this is a generality and that really when it comes to CSUs, some are going to be more commuter culture and some are going to be more people living on campus. Now, the CSUs were originally created to educate teachers, and they still continue to be the ideal place if you're planning on becoming a teacher, an engineer, or a nurse. So they have really great programs, and they're going to be much cheaper than your UCs. Unlike UCs, which are going to be focusing on research, you're going to have both research, but mostly a hands-on approach with your CSUs. So you may have some kind of internship where you are actually working in an area that is similar to what you're majoring in and what you want to pursue as a career. For example, for teaching, I needed to do an internship where I needed to work with middle school and high school teachers and create a portfolio, which I was graded on. For tuition, you're looking at about $6,000, so cheaper than your UCs. But keep in mind you're going to have other fees you have to pay for, like books, healthcare if that's something that you're interested in, etc. So you may be paying up to $16,000 in various fees, and that doesn't include if you're spending about $10 grand to live on campus. So my question to you is, which one is really for you? Now, we have our lovely anime reference, paying for college to get a job just to get a job to pay for school. Yes, we will be getting into that on a later date. So, some questions I have for you are, how much are you actually planning on spending for your undergraduate degree? If money is not an option for you, or it's not something for you to worry about because parents are paying, then you don't have to automatically exclude UCs. What do you actually plan on majoring in? We're going to get into that on a different day, but that's also going to impact where you want to go. Other things would be, are you actually going to go to grad school? Now remember, CSUs are also going to prepare you for grad school, but they may have limited options on what you can get a master's or a PhD in. What will your living situation be like? So living on campus, living with parents, etc. And what kind of campus culture do you want? I went to a school where there was commuter culture because that was really something that I was just more interested in. My goal was to go to school, get an education, come back, sleep periodically, and that was fine with me. Other students, they want to have a full-fledged experience, and that's fine too. So please email me if you have any questions on this. Otherwise, this concludes our brief introduction on UCs versus CSUs.